Hello, YouTube. I'm just waiting for TikTok because my big audience is on TikTok. So if you want to join us there, it's the same name, Bratbusters Parenting. Or you can just look up ignoring tantrums and I'll turn up. Those are the videos that get the most hate. Hi, I am. Oh, you're first here. Taylor. Hi, Taylor. Okay, so while we're waiting for people to turn up, I always like to know where you're from. I learned all about the sugar. What the heck was the name of that? Those islands I just looked up. They're off the coast of Denmark. They're their own country, I think, but they're off the coast of, hi, Sweden. They're off the coast of, sugar. What the heck was the name of that? Someone reminded me yesterday. I'd never heard of it before. It was these gorgeous little quaint, very desolate islands off the coast of Denmark. And I'd never heard of it before. And someone was from there the other day. IGM. Is that rude? Sometimes I'll repeat stuff and I don't know if it's rude or not. I said something really horrible once. It was phonetically, I said it phonetically, but it was spelled. I didn't recognize what I was saying. And it was awful. I said it out loud on a live. But, I'm old. I mean, come on, you got to give me a break. Okay. So where are you from? I'd like to know, geez, what was the name of that place? The islands off the coast of Denmark. Someone was here from there the other day. I looked it up. It was just fascinating. A place I'd never heard of before. So I've learned more about geography since doing these lives in the last year and a half than I probably ever learned in my whole life, because you get people from all over the world and I just find it fascinating. I'm also terribly impressed that people can speak English, people have a second language. I find that fascinating. My son went to Denmark years ago, and he said that everyone rides their bikes there. No one locks them up, and it's all safe there. But he said, yeah, I've heard he loved it. He thought it was beautiful. But what we were laughing at was, he said everyone complained about the hill, riding their bike up this hill. He said it wasn't even a slant. He said a marble wouldn't even have rolled down it. They all complained about the hill because Denmark's all flat except this one little itsy bitsy slant, and everyone was complaining about riding their bike up the hill. Because here in Vancouver, we get like mountains to ride up. So anyway, we thought that was pretty funny. Now watch out for the hill. Are you okay on that? Psych up. It's like people in Switzerland laugh at people who call people, like we call our BC local mountains here, we call them mountains. They would call them hills. We have hills too. Mountains too. We have the Rockies. Okay, so I guess I've been blathering on enough. Let's get going. If you go on the link above there, you'll see my coaching, my courses, and my free behavior board. You're on that too. That's what makes it work. Okay. Please produce for twin content. What do you want to know? What are they, 16, 6 months? What do you want to know about twins? I get a lot of twins in coaching. And people always say they're so different. Well, yeah, of course they are. They grow differently because they have to have their own identity. That's why twins often do grow differently. And they often compete for same personality traits. That's when a lot of this comes into it. But yeah, 1-year-olds. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what you're battling right now. But and they're all different. Some twins get along. They're best friends right from day one. Others never get along and they kill each other and never see each other as adults. So I think it's a personality thing. I believe in chemistry. We didn't used to have a word for that. When you just meet someone and you just hit it off. Now it's chemistry. It can be with men or women or whoever it can be like just friendships or romantic things. There has to be a connection. So just because you're in the same family, you love each other, but you're not always connected, right? You don't always have that connection. So yeah, don't expect your twins to be best friends. They may very well be, but they might not be. Oh my goodness. My 2-year-old daughter is not talking. Any advice? My regulars know exactly what I'm thinking. Thank your lucky stars. Like once they start, they hardly ever stop. My kids never shut up. I never shut up. So that's where they got it from. But yeah, wait till they're 3. If they're still, okay, now I'm not a doctor or a pediatrician, but this is what the professionals have told me. If they're not talking by around 3, because sometimes they're just laid back observers. But if they're not talking till around 3, that's when they say you really want to look into it. But yeah. But even then, I knew someone years ago who didn't talk or walk till she was 3 years old. And she had a younger brother who was 2 years younger. He was up and walking at like 8 months old. And she'd just point to something and grunt and he would get it for her. So she had no need. And she was very laid back. She's in her 70s now. She's still like that. It's her personality to be very laid back. So, but yeah, when she did get up, she walked and talked perfectly. But she was just waiting. Had a 3.5 nonverbal. Why are they nonverbal? There's usually a reason behind that, a 3.5. So, okay, advice on toddler not trying new foods or being picky. Yeah, they're going to do that. They're going to go through all sorts of stages. And my son was really picky, but I only had healthy food in the house, so I didn't really care. Like he was either going to pick this healthy food or that healthy food. Toddlers generally don't starve themselves to death. They usually eat a lot less than you think they need to. So yeah, especially if they're eating what I call filler food. It's not really food. It's all that packaged garbage, right? If they eat a lot of that, it's very filling, has a lot of calories. It's empty calories, but if they're eating some of that, they're not going to want the healthy stuff, which is a lot lighter usually, especially like fruits and vegetables. Do you have any advice about 14-year-olds? My parents don't do much parenting and I'm the older sister. Oh, I can't give you any advice, Em. I only teach parenting. What I mean by that is I just can't. If your parents wanted to hire me, I could give them some advice, but I can't. I just can't. I can't tell you how to help because I don't know the situation. I can't assess it and it's not my lane. I stay in my lane. I only help parents. I don't help grandparents. I don't help teachers. I do, but I don't, it's not my thing. Like what I mean is they often hire me. Sometimes teachers will hire me to help with their classroom. And I say, I'll just talk about parenting. And then they learn that way, but I won't discuss teaching because I don't know anything about it. Yeah, I couldn't teach. Okay, my toddler's starting to hit when she doesn't get what she wants. How old? Okay, your mom was on drugs when pregnant. And would you recommend sign language? Yeah, I don't know. I'm not a specialist with that stuff. I used to work with NAS babies. Like I volunteered in a hospital. It was actually a care facility that for permanent care, and it was babies who were born addicted. They called it narcotic addiction syndrome. Different places call it different things, but we used to call them NAS babies. And so I saw some of them over a period of years. I saw some of them develop, and I saw the one thing they all seemed to have in common was a lack of impulse control. And they were often slow to communicate too. But the biggest problem was the lack of impulse control as they got older, because they will eventually learn to talk. But as they get older, it gets more challenging with the impulses. That part of their brain just didn't develop properly, evidently. So there's things that we do. I've worked with lots of parents with those babies, and there's things that we do. There's like reminders, even little things like remind them when they start to feel anxious that they might do something they know they shouldn't. That elastic on the wrist and stuff like that, just a nerve sort of, it hits the nerve and it jolts them into thinking before they act. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. That's a coaching issue, by the way. It's not something I can really help you with on here. Um, yeah, they're terrified to sleep alone. This is for Nika. Um, Terrified of monsters. I was too. What I would do is I would say monsters hate whatever it is you want to get. So buy something like one of those galaxy lights or something. Say it terrifies monsters. They won't come near it. So get something like that. Give it a go. Something like that. Or it could be one of those noise machines, sound machines, not noise machines. Well, they are to me. I can't stand them, but a lot of kids love that. The sound of the womb or whatever. Don't just use an Alexa or something like that. Whoops, I hope she doesn't talk to me. Because then they'll learn that they can just turn that off. So buy like one of those sound machines or something, or a galaxy light, and say monsters are terrified of that. They won't come near you. Well, okay. My 4-year-old hits when he gets upset. He's speech delayed. Any advice? I don't see what one has to do with the other. Like why, if he's speech delayed, what does that have to do with hitting? And why is he speech delayed? Like, has he got other challenges or is there something else going on? Is he autistic? So I can't answer that responsibly without knowing some background, because that's not a standard answer. I need to assess the situation. So that if you want my help, you'd have to hire me. That's up in that link up there. Okay. My baby is 3. She's not a baby anymore. And she started throwing her toys or hitting when she gets mad. Yeah, often when they turn 3, parents say, they were great until they turned 3. Really common. That just says you were never a leader and they know it. At 3 is when they find their power. It's when they can start to reason. This is what they do. They go, wait a minute, I'm in charge. I'm going to take charge. That's what happens. They start to be able to reason and think things through. And if you're not a leader, they will often do that. So yeah. If you want my course, that's labeled up above. It's How to Get Respect in 5 Weeks. It starts for kids at the age of 3. And that might be a great help to you if you want to hire me. Otherwise, just check out my behavior board and put down no hitting or no throwing things. Something like that as their rule. But that just teaches you how to deal with the behavior. And it's sort of the start of leadership. The course goes into great detail about how to set yourself up as a leader. But the behavior board is just sort of step 1 in all this. And the course does use behavior boards. But yeah, the behavior board can work, but it's just it's a small part of the whole picture. I'm going to read out toddler tips. I know you always are trying to make sense out of toddlers, but it's your assessment of toddlers that's way off. So that's why I didn't even used to answer those questions before, and now I realize I have to because there's so many parents of toddlers on here. But I just used to say, yeah, toddlers are crazy. Don't try and figure them out. I used to just answer that way. But now, of course, I don't, because I know there's so many. You want more more answers than they're just crazy. But anyway, here's the 5 top tips if you have toddlers. Number 1, child-proof your home so you never have to say no. Number 2, set up a toy rotation system so they're never bored. Number 3, enter their world to connect with them. Don't connect with a 3-year-old at the nail salon. Go to the park and roll down the hill with them. Number 4, stop trying to figure them out. They're brand new, fresh human beings. They're crazy. They haven't developed sanity yet. They're not figure-outable. Smearing poop on the wall might be totally normal to some of them. Okay, they're just forming. And number 5 is stop with the mini therapy sessions, discussing all their feelings and everything. That's not them, that's for you. That whole please your parents style of parenting, it's usually taught by younger people without a lot of experience with kids because it tanks later on. It's just useless. It's all these mini therapy sessions with toddlers. Tumbleweed, yeah, some marble and some tumbleweed floating around in there. But anyway, the words are just useless. They're about consistent corrective actions because they learn through repetition. They're not listening to you, they're watching you. They learn through watching and doing. It's all physical with toddlers. By the time they're 3, they can stop and think before they act. Will they always do that? No, but they have the ability to. How do you stop a 7-year-old lying? Makes up story. Yeah. Lying, just put down on the behavior board, put down no lying. And then you write in brackets, I will decide when you're lying. So they can't say, I wasn't lying, except I decided you were. And they're 7, they can understand this next thing I would say, you know what? Let's say you're not lying. Chances are there's been lies that you've told that I haven't caught. So, it balances out. You see what I mean? Like that's as far as I would go to explain myself. But yeah. Smacking isn't a discipline method. It's a reaction. It's your own reaction to your own anger. So it's never a good thing to do. It's not discipline, really. Discipline is just a form. Self-discipline is a form of discipline. If you're self-disciplined, do you smack yourself? It's not a form of discipline at all. It's your angry reaction to something. So yeah, it's not discipline. When to expect a toddler to start talking. My son was trying to talk when he was just a few weeks old, like trying to follow my mouth and moving his mouth and that. Whereas my daughter was much slower to talk because I probably didn't have as much time with her. I was like 24/7 with my son. So, and then with her, I had him, right? So I had a 5-year-old I had to get everywhere. So yeah, there is no, they'll give you, what do they call it? Guidelines of when they should talk and all that. They're very vague. They're all different. Some of them start talking at like 10 months old, actually forming words and everything. They can do that. Or they might start talking at 3. So it's too big of a scale. That's why I never liked those milestones. A lot is made of those. Should I tell the story about how I got this Nurse fired. Um, so it was in Australia anyway. But yeah, there's all these milestones, and they're just general ideas. And I think mom usually knows what's going on. Moms are pretty in tune to their kids, and you usually know when something's wrong. Like, my doctor in Australia, when my kids were little, I said to him, I said, because they used to always say when a baby is teething, they cannot get a temperature. If they have a fever, it has nothing to do with the teeth. Now, my son got a fever every single time he cut a tooth, every single time, and he never had them any other time, whereas my daughter did sort of have more fevers. But I said to the doctor, I said, I don't care what any professional says. Every time my son cuts a teeth, he gets a fever. And you know what the doctor said to me? One of the smartest things the doctor's ever said. Said, I never argue with a mother. He said, no one knows the baby more than the mother. They know when something's wrong. So yeah, if you really feel there's something wrong with your child's development, then go get them checked out. Yeah, according to milestones, by 18 months, they should start saying words. Yeah, but it might be younger, it might be older. That's the problem. You know what's funny? When you have your first child, you tend to look for those milestones. Kids after that, you never do. You're so busy with the other kid anyway. But yeah, I think you're just looking for guidance with your first kid. 3-year-old just constantly hitting or throwing anything in sight. They're 3 years old. You can put them on that behavior board. So what you do is you say no hitting or no throwing things. Same thing. Say no hitting or throwing things. And then there's a consequence. Check it out. It's free. It's up in the link above. And it'll teach you how to deal with hitting and all that sort of stuff. What to do when a child says they just want to play alone? Well, let them. What's the problem with that? I don't know what you mean by that. Is that a problem or? Toddlers fighting over toys. You can't teach a 2-year-old how to share. They don't understand the concept. They can learn not to grab something because they might get hit by the other kid, but they don't really understand the concept of sharing. So what I suggest you do is separate them every time they fight, but you got to be really quick with that. Say no, and then you separate them. Or if one kid grabs a toy, then you take the toy. It's consistent corrective actions, but you got to make it a project. It might take 2 days. It might take a week to train them out of that. But it's 10 times out of 10 that you got to catch everything. If you only catch things 9 times out of 10 times, it's not going to work. It has to be a project. You say every single time they fight, I'm in there like a dirty shirt with consistent corrective actions. You have to. But then if you do that, it should be within a week maximum that you can train them out of that. But it's a project. Week 1 of using your behavior board. So far it's working. I would love it if you would share what the age of your kids and what did you put for your rule? I'm curious. The age of your kids and what did you put for your rule? If you're a yeller, it's almost always no yelling. It's very rare that I'll get clients that don't yell. It throws me off. I'm like, why? You don't yell? How do I deal with you? Sometimes neither parents yell. And I'll say, oh, okay, do you yell? And I'm always ready to type in no yelling is their rule. And they go, no, we don't yell. And I'm like, it throws me right off. That's how common it is for parents to yell. How to handle big emotions, throwing fit, meltdown over small tasks. Would this be behavior board? No. Emotions don't go on the behavior board. That's like attitude, sassiness, snottiness, rudeness, none of that, disrespectfulness. None of that goes on the behavior board. Big emotions, the behavior board starts at 3. So how to handle big emotions? Well, they're very, children tend to be very calm and in charge of their own emotions when you're a leader. They just do. By the age of 3.5, they've calmed right down. Now, it happens organically. There's no mini therapy sessions. They're garbage. They were invented for the mom, for nobody else but the mom, to discuss all their big feelings and big emotions. It's garbage. I'd sure like to get my hands on the person who invented that and just find out what the heck were they thinking. Let's get a toddler to find their inner adult. Let's have a mini therapy session. Lay them down on the couch, get them some Kleenex, and go to work talking to them. Anyways, it's insane. But yeah, if the calmer you are, the better you are. Like when you're disciplining, you're calm. The rest of the time you can be crazy and loud. But if you're a good leader, they tend to be very calm. It just calms them down. It makes them feel safe. You've given them guidance, leadership. They just feel safe and it calms them down. So your leadership is what does that. It's not about their big emotions. It's about your leadership. Remember, we're never fixing kids. We're fixing and teaching parents here. So once you're a leader, your emotions take care of themselves. They just do. You know what? I've worked with hundreds of kids, and no one's ever handed me an easy kid, not once, not ever. No one's ever said, "Here's an easy one, Lisa." They always go, "Good luck with this one." So it's always the difficult kids I get. The kids that are the easiest for me to get respect from, like that, is the more difficult, feisty kids. Do you know why? Because when they come up against a leader, they go like this, "Oh, finally." They're relieved. That's what they've been asking for. All those big emotions and screaming and tantrums, they're screaming for leadership. That's all they're doing. That's their way of asking for it. They don't know how to ask for it. Mother, may I please have a leader? They just don't know. They're screaming for it. That's your sign. Kick it up a notch. Become a leader. You lead, they will follow. We all yell. Yeah, most families do. I was never yelled at, and my kids weren't yelled at. Like, I think it's kind of genetic, like generational. Okay, 9-year-old raising voice, no raising voice. 6-year-old no talking back. 3-year-old no hurting others. No phone during meal. Okay, okay. I like them. I don't like the first two, but if it's working, don't change it. 9-year-old no raising voice. 6-year-old no talking back. Those are both in the attitude department. I would never put that on a behavior board if I was working with you. But if it's working, keep doing it. Keep doing it. So good for you. I love the mom no phone during meals and dad no teasing. I love those two. Those are good ones. So good for you. If it's working, just don't listen to me. Do you have any resources? Oh, you mean like blogs and that? No, I took all those down. I got hundreds of videos on here. Plus, I got a full course on how to set yourself up as a leader. And I've got mini toddler courses because the big course starts at the age of 3. And then if you want to hire me, you can do that. But yeah, I don't have any books or anything. And I've never read a book on kids or parenting, so I can't recommend anything. What's your best advice for becoming a leader? It's kind of the same thing all across the board for all ages. You focus on your actions, but your goal this is your number one goal as a parent, to make your kids feel good about themselves. That's your number one goal from the time they're born to the time they leave your home. Make your kids feel good about themselves. If you're the source of that, and when I say good about themselves, that means they don't feel good about themselves if they're cheeky and disrespectful. So being a leader is part of that. But when you're the source of their high self-esteem, confidence, and they just like themselves, when you're the source of that, they want to please you. You'll sail right through the teen years like I did. My son was 15 and he says, "I could never rebel because you're too reasonable and easy to talk to." Darn right. So yeah, make them feel good about themselves. That's your number one focus. And discipline is just a very small part of it, but it's part of it. Because kids who are acting out they hate themselves. They hate treating other people like crap, including you. So their self-esteem's in the toilet. If you've got kids who are disrespectful and snarky and all that with you, their self-esteem's in the toilet. So you set yourself up as a leader to increase their self-esteem. So it's not how they feel about you, but how do they feel about themselves? Think about that. And that's what you want to do for everybody in your world, because you want to do that with your friends, your family, make them feel, do they like themselves when they're with you? Or are you one-upping them? Are you bragging? Are you always trying to impress? Like, that's just nauseating. I don't have anyone in my life like that. I tossed all those types years ago. But yeah, you want just people that bring you joy, that are happy and confident. And like, I'm attracted to confident people who just are happy within themselves. They know they're strong. They know who they are. And that's what you want with your kids. When they're teenagers and adults, they will be swayed more, but other people will have more influence, and that's normal. All you're doing here is giving them a kickstart, give them the best start possible. And then a lot of parents struggle with the teen years because you are going to lose a lot of control. It's just the way it is, because they're sort of in charge of their own lives at that stage. But yeah, so that parents really struggle with that. How to make them feel good? Oh God, I could go on for hours and hours and hours about this. Because it's my favorite thing. That's all I ever did with kids. I don't take any crap either, though. How to make them feel good about themselves. Well, I don't talk about it a lot, but I used to do with my kids. I just don't. I do in coaching a lot. I talk about it in coaching all the time. But I just don't want to go into it. And I don't know why. Oh, I guess, what if my kids are listening? I don't know. I don't know why. It's just so personal. But yeah, it was enjoying them is the bottom line. Enjoying them. I wallowed in my kids. My God, they were fun. They were just so much fun. I never ever had to make any effort to be with them. I love being with them. And kids pick up on that energy. I didn't spend time with them to make them better people. I didn't spend time with them because I felt I had to. I wallowed in them. I was the most fun I ever had was parenting. I laughed every single day. School moms used to say every time they'd see my blue RAV4 drive past, this is all they saw with me and the kids. Like we were all laughing all the time. Like just I enjoyed because they were good kids. I did got all that pesky discipline out of the way when they were little. So I just sailed right through the teen years and we just had fun. And when they feel enjoyed, they feel so worthy of them. They just feel worthy. Makes them feel good. They were funny. Yeah. Why don't you like to speak on step parenting? Because it's not parenting. What if I tell you to do something with those kids and the biological parent doesn't like it? That would be very irresponsible of me. And I do a lot of that in coaching, but a biological parent has to be there unless you have full custody. So the person who has custody of the children, I will talk to. But what if I gave you advice that the other parent didn't like? What you're going to do, this has happened before. People have told me this. Because they've hired me afterwards and said, yeah, I messed up. I just said I was a parent. So I told the step parent what to do with this kid. Then the biological parent did not like it at all, and it caused a war. Then they ended up hiring me. And that was years and years and years ago. And yeah, so that's why I don't. Would be like me giving advice to a daycare worker. I don't know anything about daycare. I specialize in parenting. So what if I told the daycare worker to do something with the kids and the parents didn't like? See what it's the same thing. It would be very irresponsible of me. Examples to make them feel good. Now this can be done with anybody. I'm not big on compliments. Like what I mean is they don't do much for me. But if someone laughs at I think I'm very funny. That's my thing, humor. And so if someone laughs at my jokes and they're funny too, like you use humor with me, I'll follow you anywhere. Like I just love laughing. So that's my Achilles heels, laughing. I just love it. I love humor. I was raised with a lot of humor and I just love it. My kids are raised with a lot of laughter. So that's my thing. Now, if someone laughs at what I say, that makes me feel good. Think about it. It's the same with kids. If they say something that you find funny, laugh at it. Like I remember the first time my son ever made me absolutely bowled over with his wit was he was 8. I just told this yesterday, I think. He was 8 years old and there was a new kid in school and he came from South Africa and his name was spelled John, but he pronounced it, that boy pronounced his own name, Joan. And my son came home confused and he said, Mom, why does he call himself Joan when it's spelled John? And I said, well, it's his name. He can pronounce it any way he wants. And my son instantly said, I won't say what his name is, but he instantly said, okay, well, my name is Colin, let's say. My name is Colin, but it's pronounced Braveheart. I thought, wow. I laughed. I told everybody that story. How do you think my son felt about himself? Everywhere we went, I told that story. You won't believe what he said, isn't it? And everyone just thought it was great. Stuff like that. How good do you think he felt about himself after that? I couldn't tell enough people about that. That was funny. God, that was witty. Isn't it? Like that was so witty. Turns out he's a real comedian, so he was very witty. But that was the first time he ever came up with something that witty. My daughter did too. Are you educated in dealing with children with autism? By the way, I have no education whatsoever. I make that very, very clear. I am kid taught. Everything I've learned has been through kids. I've worked with tons of kids with autism and lots of parents who have autistic children. I'm experience-based. I have no formal education in any of this. I've had some training, but I never used any of it. I always had my own style. So I tossed all the training. Anyway, I connect with kids. That's what I do. Okay. Oh, my daughter, I was going to tell a funny story. She was 3 years old, and she was one of those Velcro kids. She always wanted to be with mommy. My mom used to visit from Canada, where I live now, but my mom I lived in Australia with my kids and my ex-husband. Well, I lived with him when he was my husband. Anyway, so she would come out and visit, and my daughter was right around us all the time. Now, in Australia, you can put your kid, or she would have been 4 actually, because they go to preschool, they go to kindy at 3, preschool at 4, and then they start grade 1 at 5. So she was in 2 different preschools, a private one and a public one. So anyway, she just needed to have things to do. She's still like that. She's 28. She has to be scheduled all the time. She has to be busy all the time. So anyway, I said to her, she was just right around us, and she was such a well-behaved little girl. She knew just to sit there when Mom and I were talking, and she would just sit there listening. And I said to her, why don't you go do something? And then I said to her, that's why you're in preschool 5 days a week. And she said like that, she goes, hard luck on the weekends. I thought that was so fun. I told everyone that. How do you think she felt about herself? She felt great. That was funny. I was so proud of her. Good for you, sweetie. Okay. Yeah, a lot of questions about autism. I only say that's only for coaching. If you want to work with me, that's one-on-one. All coaching is done on Zoom. So it's like 1 hour per week, generally is how it goes. It's all up above. I just don't discuss autism on here. It's like I don't discuss abuse, crisis work, disabled children, because that's all specialty stuff, and that's only done in coaching. I actually started my business, it's up above in the link. I started my business dealing with teen crisis work because teenagers are my specialty. They're my favorite age. And I had a lot of experience with delinquent teenagers, so I just get it. And they're my specialty. And everything I talk about is to get you through those teen years. I know how to get you through those teen years. So I'm building you toward that. No matter what age your kids are, I'm always thinking, let's get you through those teen years. Nice and easy like I did. That's all I'm thinking about. And plus, if you're going to take parenting advice from someone, there's two things you got to look out for, whether it's a book or a course or whatever, or coaching or TikTok, wherever you're going to look for parenting advice. Do not take advice from anyone without these two things. One is they have to have finished the job with their own kids. How on earth can they give advice if all they have is little kids? How do they know what they're going to be like in the teen years? How do they know if what they're doing now is a good investment for the teen years? How do they don't have any clue. It'd be like taking financial advice from someone with $10 in the bank. Doesn't make any sense at all. And number two is they have to have had experience with hundreds of other kids. I didn't learn a lot with my own kids. I learned how to live with teenagers, though. That's a big one. But other than that, I didn't learn much with my own kids. I got respect when they were tiny and kind of sailed right through the teen years, basically. But they have to have worked with hundreds of other kids with all sorts of things, all sorts of challenges, because it's heavily experience-based. It just is. Yeah, I started volunteering in daycare centers when I was 11 years old. That was 51 years ago. I don't know why I even did that. Who does that? What 11-year-old goes and volunteers in a daycare center? And the daycare workers were asking my advice. I was always good at getting respect with kids and having fun with them. I was fun. I didn't take any crap, though. That was just my thing. I'm horrible at a whole bunch of things, but kids always made sense to me. I always seemed to be able to manage kids. They just made sense to me. I just got it. A whole bunch of stuff I don't get. And I should get some of the stuff I don't get, but I just hate doing it. If I hate doing something, I never learn it. I just don't. Okay. Any advice you would give to a first-time mom and dad? Yes, the first 3 months, just focus on mom and baby, happy and healthy, nothing else. Okay, nothing. Don't expect anything else from that mother. So that's just my best advice for that. And as time goes on, educate yourself on what to do with them. Like what I mean by that is what age should you be worried about this, that, the other? There's a whole bunch of progressions with kids. Under the age of 3, they're just crazy. They don't make any sense. Just have fun with them. The best 5 tips I can have with toddlers: child-proof your house, have a toy rotation system, connect with them in their world. Don't try to figure them out. They don't make any sense until they're about 3. And don't talk them through their feelings. They're about actions, not mini therapy sessions. So yeah, and then by the age of 3, start with the behavior board. They can start to learn responsibilities. By the age of 9 to 12, you're starting to hand over some of the responsibilities to them because they're tweens or preteens. 13 and up, everything's about listening and negotiating. Listening and negotiating in the teen years. You can try and control a teenager and tell them what to do. Good luck with that. Let me know how it works. I'd love to know. How do you stop the sassiness? That's just a tell. They're only sassy if you're not a leader. When you're a leader, they're never sassy. It would be ridiculous. Like they would be embarrassed to be rude to a leader. They just would, because they look up to leaders. It's like a really good teacher, a really good sports coach, because they admire leaders. They're never sassy to a leader. So it's all about you. We're not fixing kids. We're fixing and teaching parents here. You set yourself up as a leader and sass will just disappear. You never address it. That's like addressing, oh, I'm going to punish you for my lack of leadership. That's what you're saying, basically. Okay. So it's all about you. You lead, they will follow. Do you have the stages listed on your website? I can't even remember what they were now. No, I don't. I took down all my blogs. Do you know why? I had thousands of blogs because I've been doing this for 17 years, and I deleted them all. I was going through an old one and it said, oh, this newfangled Facebook page thing we got going. Just how embarrassing. It was so outdated. I just got rid of it. Do you know what's funny? Is all the advice between parent and child is the same. It's just relationships. Times change, but people never do. Anyway, toy rotation system. You asked more about that. I only had maybe 5% of my kids' toys out at any given time. The rest were all put away in boxes where they couldn't see them. And they understood all this from a very young age. I'm a very fussy person. I'm not a minimalist, but I don't like crap around. And so, and also I know that kids get overstimulated when there's too much. If there's too much around, they don't see anything. They don't play with anything. That's why I don't like toy rooms for two reasons. There's too much going on that they get bored in them. And I want my kids with me. I didn't want my kids in another room. I wanted my kids with me all the time. If they were playing, and I was cooking, I wanted them right there where I could see them. I just like being around them all the time. Then you could talk to them. That's when you understand. It's easier to understand them when you're with them all the time. Anyway, so what I did was maybe once a week or once every fortnight. Sorry, in Australia, that's every 2 weeks where I raise my kids. Or maybe once every quarter even. They would say, oh, can we do a toy rotation? So, and then they have to put everything away, and then we pull out some more stuff so that we just rotate it. They never got bored. But I never put away the big stuff. I never put away like comforting things like a favorite plushie or a favorite stuffed animal. I never put that away. I never put away books. I never put away like Lego or PlayStation or anything big like that. It was all the other crap. And the best advice I can give you for Christmas is be right there. And when they open something and go, oh, that and whatever, and they put it aside, grab it and put it in the box. They won't remember even getting it. They're only going to remember the big things that they got. So then in March, when they start to get bored, then you've got that brand new toy you can pull out. My kids, whenever they have birthday parties, I know that I'm really fussy. I'm very clean. Everyone laughs at me. I'm not OCD, but I am very fussy. So, and I know I'm not OCD because I've done all the tests because I don't get anxiety if everything isn't in its place, but trust me, everything's in its place all the time. So anyway, whenever my kids would have a birthday party, I put all their brand new toys away right away for a few reasons. One of them is I didn't want all the other kids mucking up in this party with icing on their hand. I didn't want them messing up all my kids' precious new toys. Also, I was going to sort through those later and hand them out very slowly. You know, like I wasn't going to give them everything all at once. So yeah, rotate things. You think about it this way. A classroom operates like that. They don't throw everything in the middle of the floor and say, have at it. They say, okay, now, and they have like activity times. Okay, now we're going to do this. Now we're going to go on to the next thing. Let's pack all this up and go on to the next thing. I kind of had my home organized like that. That's why my kids were never bored because I always sort of had things rotating around. And when something big came out, it could stay out for a week or so. But as soon as they stopped playing with it every day, we packed it all up, put all the Lego away. Then we could get out the racetrack set. So there was never two big things out at once, like going, you know? So I was very organized with that. That's why my kids, when they went to school, piece of cake. They were used to being well-behaved. They had routines. They had discipline. They had structure. So, and it was fun. We had fun. Yeah, I should do those stages, shouldn't I? I should write that out. The stages of parenting. I should do a video on that. Let me write that down. Yeah, okay, I got that written down. That's a good one for a video. Advice for a 2-year-old son that doesn't listen to mom but listens to dad. I don't know what you're doing. Like, I don't know what your parenting style is. So I'd have to assess that. Just watch dad. What's he doing right? And what are you doing wrong? That's what I would do. That's what I'd suggest you do. My ex-husband had the same thing. I was the leader. He was the pleaser. And that usually is the way. There's usually just one leader. But as the kids got older, they follow the leader no matter who they're with. So they were good with everybody. By the age of about 3.5, they have that leadership umbrella cemented and they take it everywhere. So once they've got a really good leader, they just like themselves like that. They don't want to be sassy to anybody. But before then, my kids definitely would have pushed their dad around more. But he learned, he said, what should I do if they push me around? I said, just say, do you want me to tell mom? That's all it took. No, I never even did anything. Just I was the leader. So yeah, watch what he does. What does he do right and what are you doing wrong? Just assess it. Unless he's fear-based. If he's the old-fashioned authority style fear-based parenting, you don't want to go there. Kids will listen to that, but it backfires in the teen years. So you don't want to maintain that. But it's not as bad as what's trendy right now, which is the pleaser parent style. Rolling out the red carpet, participation awards. What a bunch of crap that is. Oh my God. I remember the first time I ever heard of a participation award. I thought, are you freaking kidding me? And I said, you're going to raise self-entitled snowflakes with mental health issues. That was 30 years ago. Look where we are. Self-entitled snowflakes with mental health issues. Not all kids turn out like that, but boy, they're common. Because their parents were so busy trying to give them participation awards and asking the teachers to favor them. Oh, they really like this. They don't like doing that. Oh my God, I would never have gone into a school and told a teacher to treat my kid differently from any other kid. Unless they had some deadly illness or something. But, stuff like that happens a lot. This entitlement. It comes from insecurity, by the way. And I know that, but parents don't seem to know that until I tell them that. They say, well, why shouldn't I do that? I said, because you're insecure. A leader would not do that. You're not preparing them for the real world. The real world is not going to just cater to everything they want. They're not going to do that. So why would you set your kids up for disappointment and misery? I have no idea what you mean by that. I'm not even going to read it out loud because I don't know what you mean by that. It's smacky, by the way. 2-year-old falling out in the grocery store, so shopping tantrums. Yeah, I've done videos on that if you want to look it up. How to shop with a toddler. My kids were in that seat, that shopping trolley seat, till they were like 16 years old. They didn't know freedom in a grocery store. They had no clue what it was all about. That my grocery shopping was virtually none of their business. That's the way I looked at it. Do you know what I did? I had a little goodie bag that I gave them, and I always kept my kids entertained. Okay, I never wanted to have obedient little soldiers. I believe that kids need to be stimulated. They need to have fun. They need to feel valued. So what I did was every single time we went grocery shopping, I had a goodie bag. It opened like this, and inside was something new every time we went out. And they only ever saw that goodie bag when they were sitting up in that shopping trolley. It had new little toys. Just go to the dollar store, rotate all this. I just had a basket I'd grab stuff from and throw it in there. They had a treat. They had a little drink. And then they were like eye level with me or closer to it. And we'd be talking about everything they had in there. It was wonderful. And I never let them help with anything. Because if you start letting your kids help putting groceries in the back, they're going to have a fit when you don't hand them the eggs. You see what you're doing? You're setting them up for failure. You're not consistent. You can help with this, but not with that. Think about it. It's not fair to the kids. Sure, you can put the toilet paper and the Kleenex in the back, but you can't have the eggs and the fragile stuff. They don't understand that when they're little. You're being unreasonable and unfair to them. So yeah, don't have them help. They don't need to. It's ridiculous. Well, I want them to learn how to help when they're old enough. Yeah, teach them how to help, but they don't need to learn how to help when they're 2. They would rather have a little goodie bag. And then the second they got out of the shopping cart, the goodie bag went away. They didn't get it in the car or anywhere else. That went away. And they never had a problem with it. They didn't know any different because I was consistent. I was 100% predictable. That's why the kids never heard the word no, because they never asked me anything or pushed, because they knew mom knew how to take care of business. They knew that they always went in the shopping cart. There was no possibility that they wouldn't be. Stuff like that, you see? How to get my son to listen when we call his name. Well, is he 16 or 2 or how old is he? Let's say he's 2 years old. You put him on a leash, a harness, or a restraint. And if he doesn't come when he's called, then you put that leash on him and say, I told you to come here and you didn't. And then the rest of that outing, he stays on that leash for the rest of that outing. Now that's a safety issue. There's nothing wrong with restraining a child to keep them safe. Would you rather him go under a bus or run into a train? It's like you restrain them in the car or in the high chair. So, restrain them when you're out. It's a safety issue. Anyone could grab them. 7-year-old wants to be the leader all the time during playtime and is hard to make friends. What kind of parent are you? Is he the leader of you? Like that sort of says that he's used to being in charge with you. He's not used to following at all or being cooperative at all. He hasn't got that personality trait. So yeah, I would say look within. Whenever I was working with kids and they did something I didn't like, I never ever thought, what's wrong with you? I always thought, what did I do wrong here? What am I miss? I always looked in the mirror, always. And this is just mentoring troubled teens or whatever. I always looked in the mirror. Like, what am I missing here? What am I doing wrong? So look at yourself. What kind of parent are you? Is 5 too late to start the behavior board? Well, some people started at 18. So, and some people take it to work and use it with staff. And they're on there too. The boss is on there too. That's what makes it work. That's what makes it fun. They have fun with it, actually. So yeah, it's never too late. It's an accountability chart. That's all it is. There's not enough accountability in the world. That's why people are out there arguing parking tickets when they know they're wrong. Stuff like that. I'm mind boggled by that. I you know what's interesting? My car was towed once, and I happened to know they towed it illegally because where it was, a neighbor came out and said, yeah, someone fought that last week, and they said they were going to change the sign because it wasn't properly marked. I never fought it. I thought, what the heck? I just didn't even fight it. Anyway, my point is, I went down to the towing place. Do you know they're like armed? It's like a prison down there because people get so angry when their car is towed. Even though I was in the right, I still didn't get angry. I just whatever. I didn't want to go to court and fight it. That was the bottom line. I couldn't be bothered. Anyway, I didn't want to take a day off work to go and fight this thing. So anyway, I went down there and the woman kept looking at me funny. And I said, why do you keep looking at me like that? And she goes, because no one's ever been this polite to us. I was shocked at that. I thought, why not? And she goes, oh, people, they're just mad that we took their car. And I said, yeah, but it's usually because they were doing something illegal. She goes, it doesn't matter. People don't like being accountable. And I thought, wow, that resonated with me. They don't like to be accountable these days. Why is that? Because they're raised with these they're raised self-entitled by these pleaser parents. It's the pleaser parenting that does that. You're not accountable. You fight it no matter what it is. You fight it. Why? Shouldn't you be accountable for what you do? It's like when people fight parking tickets. The car's right there. It says no parking. They're right in front of a driveway, and they're still fighting and telling off the meter guy or whatever, the one giving them a ticket. Like, to me, that's insane. Do they not look in a mirror ever? It's insane to me. You don't want your kids turning out like that. I don't know what you mean by that. I think English might be your second language because I don't quite know the way you've worded things. That's 2023. I'm not quite sure what the problem is. I've read it twice now. Maybe I'm just not getting it. My 4-year-old has, okay. My 4-year-old has meltdowns when she is unable to do a task, writing stickers. Do you pay attention to that? Not in the moment, no. But she's got to learn how to be a good loser or a good sport. So whenever you're playing games, that sort of says to me that when you're playing, that you focus more on winning, not playing. So yay, you won, you won. So winning, the end result is the focus for you. When I grew up, it wasn't at all. My mom said, I'd rather you fail at something and do your best rather than get an A in something that comes easy to you. She goes, she was always pushing the effort and the work I put into something, not the end result, if that makes any sense. Does that make sense? So it says to me that you have put too much focus in the end result. I know that sounds convoluted, but that's just a tell for me because I think I'm right about that. I could be wrong. I don't think so, though. So yeah, put the focus on trying. Wow, good for you. You tried. Look at me. I just dropped this all over the floor, but boy, I worked really hard on that. I'm proud of that. I worked really hard on that. And whenever we played games in my family, my mom hates poor sports. Well, she did. She passed away, but she was a very sweet lady. But one thing she really hated was phoniness and poor sportsmanship. Those are two personality traits she hated. Anyway, one of them was the poor sports, and she made sure my brother and I, we play to win, but we don't care if we win. Does that make any sense? We play hard to win, but we don't care if we win. We just say, oh, okay, I put my all into that. Does that make sense? So yeah, so she's just being a bit of a poor sport. Things aren't going the way she wants, so she's focused too much on the end result. Do I beat him? No, you just focus on the play. Oh, I played so hard. You won. Okay, but remember that move that you did, or you lost. Remember that move you did? That was really good. Or when you, no, don't ever fudge a game. Don't ever, you always both try your best, but play games that are fair with your kid. Like play games. When I played with my kids, I wasn't playing Monopoly with a 2-year-old. Like I was playing games they could win at. Like it was always we used to play Olympics. I'd play Olympics with the kids. It was always stuff they could do. Like how many times can you roll down the hill? I'd roll once and throw up, and they could roll 20 times. So I played on their terms. So it was stuff that they had a fair chance at. And then I don't remember ever focusing on who won. It was just having fun doing it, laughing, doing it. It was more the process, living in the moment, the process rather than the goal. But yeah, so a lot of people, I was just going to go off on a spiel about how to get your kids to get along. That's another, it kind of rolls into that, but it's very similar. But yeah, just focus on having fun, not winning at everything. I remember there's this comedian I really like. There's a couple comedians I've been following comedians this past years. It's really weird. Anyway, his name's Brian Regan. This other one, these two, Leanne Morgan and Greg Warren. Those are my 3 favorite comedians right now. I think it was Brian Regan that he said that he was playing. His parents had said to play Barbies with his young sister or something, and he didn't get it because he was very competitive. It was mostly older boys in the family, and they were always competing with everything. And he said that he played Barbies with his younger sister, but he didn't get it because he kept saying, well, how do you win? I thought that was hilarious. I don't even think he was trying to be funny when he said that. He just didn't understand why you would play something without trying to win. And Barbies is just about the story, the imagination, Anyway, it was interesting. Yeah, it does come. It's a learned behavior, by the way. That comes from somewhere. I had this one client who said, and he gave himself away. He says, no, I don't care about winning or losing. And then his son came up to him while we were on the call. And I don't remember I don't have no clue what it was. But the father said, oh, no, I got that number. So I beat you. And the father went like this to me. He was caught red-handed. He was always trying to beat his kid at something. He couldn't figure out why his kids were crying every time they couldn't do something. And he said, no, I don't do that. But anyway, okay, my 3 favorite comedians. We just recently saw him. My daughter took me to his show. Brian Regan, and then Greg Warren, who I actually think I think he's got the best specials out on YouTube right now. Look up Greg Warren, the salesman, and he's got 2 other specials on there. I just discovered him. He's hilarious. And then Leanne Morgan. She's Southern. She just became a comedian late in life. She was always funny, but now she's just blown up. Like Amy Schumer blew up. She's blown up like that. So yeah, Brian Regan, Greg Warren, and Leanne Morgan. Fantastic comedians. And they're all clean. Not that I care about that, but I'm not a swearer. Like if you have to start swearing, I always think they have nothing much to say. Like they're kind of leaning on it. But anyway, they're all really witty. Okay. Bad language. Well, it's your nephew, so I can't tell you this. If it was a parent, I would say put no bad words on the behavior board. That's all you can do. And then there's consequences, but you can't impose consequences on your nephew. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. My hands are always kind of tied when you talk about a 2-year-old hitting at daycare. That's kind of up to the daycare workers. And I do get clients who I have to work with on that because their kids sometimes are kicked out of daycares and then they hire me to help that. And I say, well, for one thing, don't wrestle with them at home. So don't do anything physical where physicality becomes the norm. I'm not pro with wrestling with kids, but a lot of my clients do. And I don't say don't do it if you're having fun and that. So maybe the dad was a wrestler. I think I've had 2 clients recently. And the dads were both wrestlers and love wrestling with their little kids, boys and girls. And I say, well, don't stop doing it then. But I don't really I never roughhouse with kids because then it becomes normal for them to lash out. Even though it's done in fun with you, then they're more comfortable lashing out and getting physical with other kids. So, but yeah, if you're already doing it, it's not one of those, it's sort of a gray area. It's one of those, yeah, I wouldn't recommend it, but if you're already doing it, it's not a big deal. There's not much you can do at home. That's the problem. That's the problem because 2-year-olds are about actions. You have to be right there in the moment to have a consistent corrective action. You can't have a mini therapy session with a 2-year-old. Can't say, by the way, tomorrow at daycare. You can't do that with a 2-year-old. So that's why it's sort of, you just have to wait it out, see if the daycare people can handle it. And they're so experienced, they usually can, especially the older ones. My kids were never in daycare, but if they were, I would have looked for a daycare with older women. Because they just have experience. All this stuff is so heavily experience based. Because you've seen everything. It's one thing to read about it and study it, but it's quite another to live it and over and over and over again. You are awesome. Oh, thanks so much. That's very sweet. I'm really bad at a lot of things, but this parenting always came real. We always have a few things we're good at. Parenting always came easy to me, as did kids. I have mentored and worked and volunteered thousands of hours with kids, hospitals, schools, institutions, psych wards. I've done everything with kids. I always found them fascinating. Do you know why? Because they're where we all started. If you can figure out kids, you can kind of figure out adults. I'll meet someone and I kind of can figure out how they were parented. Because that's where we all started. It's the base of all of us. And it's also the best of us, because that was before all the baggage and all the shields that we put up, how we protect ourselves. And we all do it. So that's before. They were just so natural. They're the best of us. They're all young at the daycare. Yeah, it's harder for them. I'm not criticizing them in any way. And sometimes older people are cranky and old farts too. So, they're not even always great. But people skills are heavily experience based. What was I talking? Some of my clients are child psychologists. And imagine how embarrassed they are when they first hire me. And they often don't tell me what they are right up front, but I can pick up on the vernacular and I'll say, what do you do for a living? And then they'll have to own up because they can't hide it, right? But yeah, they say, I've been studying this for like 12 years. I went to school to do this. And why am I struggling with my own kids? And I always say the same thing, because it's personal. That's what I'm good at, the personal, the parent-child relationship. Nothing else is like that. Nothing can prepare you for that until you're in it. It's just different. I had tons of experience with kids before I had my own. My son was a few days old, and my mom had just come out from Canada. We lived in Australia, or my kids were born and raised. And my mom had just come out. So I said, oh, I just can't wait to get out of the house, because I'd been home with my baby. I think he was 2 or 3 days old at this point. I'd been home with him, and I was looking forward to getting out. And because I've been up all night too, you know what it's like with a new baby, and he wasn't a sleeper. And so I left him with my husband, who didn't know anything about babies, but I fed him, changed him, and I said, here, just hold him. We'll be back in an hour. So I went to the mall, and I hate shopping, but we just went to get some groceries. So I stopped right in the middle of the aisle, and my mom said, what's wrong? And I said, oh, I get it. You can't get away. Like, all I wanted to do was get home to my baby. Like, I didn't want to be at the supermarket. All I wanted to do was get home to my baby. And that's when it hit me. As much experience as I had with kids, it's different when it's your own. It's just different. And yeah, I just couldn't wait to get home to him again. Okay. What is the hardest thing, in your opinion, to teach or fix? Not from your perspective. I'll tell you, from your perspective, I'll tell you what I think is very hard, very challenging from a parent's perspective. From my parenting coaching perspective. Now, remember, I have a background in dealing with crisis, like life and death crisis work, abused children, teenagers in crisis, all that stuff. Do you know my biggest challenge in coaching is when I've got a mom with a toddler and a new baby? Her hands are tied. Like, I can only tell her to do so much. She's exhausted. She's breastfeeding. She's got maybe postpartum depression. She's got a toddler driving her insane. That's my biggest challenge in coaching, because what can I really tell her to do? She's so strung out anyway. So it's more just talking her off the cliff, mothering her, just talking her off the cliff is what but I can't give her as much advice as I'd like to, because she's at her capacity. That would be the hardest. For parents, it would be transitioning to the teen years. I would say that's probably the hardest. Teens are my favorite age, but I can see why people are afraid of them, because it's not about them, it's about you. You got to learn how to change your parenting style as they enter into the teen years, and you got to know when to time it out. They're all different. They advance at different ages. So transitioning into the teen years, I would say, is when you start letting go and you stop sweating the small stuff and just get involved in the big stuff. It's hard. I'm pregnant with a toddler. You may have an easy go of it. They don't all have a hard go of it. Some of them just hire me just to learn, what's coming. What should I be setting up for myself? So, but when they are, especially postpartum depression, if I get a mom with that, yeah, I go into mother mode. I just mother her basically, because a lot of it she just sits and cries. So I find that very painful. I yeah, I get emotional talking about it right now. I find that very painful. Uh, yeah, it's heartbreaking. And yet I deal with crisis, life and death stuff. But that's work. I know what to do. This other one, yeah, yeah, postpartum depression. It's rough. Okay, what time is it? Oop, it's exactly 1 hour. I got to get going. Um, well, okay. With so many families in this world, to make it a better place, wouldn't parenting coaching be free? Wouldn't drug coaching be free? Wouldn't relationship coaching, everything be free? It'd be great if everything was free, wouldn't it? Wouldn't gas? Oh, it'd be great if gas. Oh, food was free. Oh my God, housing. I would love that. No, food right now. I own my place. So food, I'm old. So food, free food. That would be, what a great world that would be. There'd be no economy. We'd all be nothing to put traffic lights on. But anyway, yeah, it'd be great if everything was free. Anyway, I got to get going. So thanks so much. If you go on the link above, you can hire me for coaching, buy one of my courses, or download my free behavior board. You're on that too. That's what makes it work. And coaching is one-on-one on Zoom. So it doesn't matter where you are in the world. It's usually an hour per week. Anyway, I got to get going and we'll talk soon. Bye now.